Hi, I'm Jennifer Pollard, Chief Operating Officer with TMA SF Connects. I'm joined by TMA SF Connect staff member Jeff Lee, Program Director. Today, we are discussing the efforts of WETA to offer a transit option that builds on the legacy of commuter transportation and reflects the best practices refined during the COVID-19 pandemic. TMA SF Connects has supported the use of public transportation services in the Bay Area and its benefits for the past 30 years. We are a privately funded nonprofit that promotes alternatives to driving alone. Our goal in this interview series is to explore and highlight the efforts that WETA is undertaking to offer safe and reliable transportation for the returning commuter. We'd like to welcome and thank Thomas Hall, WETA's Public Information and Marketing Manager, for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Our first topic will be the sanitation in the WETA system. So Thomas, just over the course of the pandemic, WETA adopted a 6-point plan for passengers and crew safety. Has that plan changed at all, and is it still being followed? As we'd like to draw the emphasis on enhancing the cleaning procedures that were implemented.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jennifer. So we did adopt a 6-point health and safety plan to make sure that our crews and all passengers were protected as the pandemic began and we began to understand more about how COVID-19 was transmitted. Things have changed over time. The science has changed on what the biggest risk factors are. And so that's been a living plan that has changed quite a bit over time. Folks may remember that on public transit, there were capacity restrictions at the beginning that were led by state and local officials, public health officials. Those have since been dropped by public health officials. So we are operating at full capacity on all of our vessels now. For a while, we were at 25% and then 50% for a period of time until the public health officers determined that full capacity was safe. In addition, we did have a mask mandate on the ferries from April of 2020. We were one of the first public agencies to adopt a mask mandate following some public health advice from local public health officials. And that has been lifted due to the lifting of those recommendations from public health officials. Currently on the ferries on San Francisco Bay Ferry, masks are strongly recommended, but not required. We are finding that many passengers are continuing to wear masks. I certainly am still wearing one when I'm riding the ferries. We also have outdoor seating available on all of our ferries that a lot more passengers are taking advantage of. Even on these gloomy summer days in San Francisco, people are still taking advantage of the outdoor seating, knowing, as everyone has been made aware through the science changing over time, that that's the safest place to be is outdoors. And so people are taking advantage of that. We are still keeping the ferries very clean. I think if you asked a ferry rider before the pandemic, they would say that the ferries were very clean. We're continuing that. We did ramp up some cleaning efforts during the peak of the pandemic, including disinfectant fogging, which was a new technology to us and many other transit operators. We're no longer doing disinfectant fogging on the vessels, but our crews are doing a great job of maintaining high standards of cleanliness, wiping down surfaces, frequently touched surfaces in particular, such as rails, the backs of seats, and door handles. Our restrooms, which we do have operational and accessible restrooms on every ferry, are being cleaned frequently. And our crews are taking the lower ridership trips, such as heading back to the East Bay after dropping off a full load in San Francisco in the mornings. They're taking that opportunity to do some deep cleaning while in service. So our crews have done an amazing job keeping the ferries clean and really raising the standard since the pandemic began. One of the other important points of our pandemic health and safety plan was healthy crews. And so we've worked very closely with our contract operator, Blue and Gold Fleet, to make sure that crews had access to the vaccine early through being essential workers and being exposed to the public. In addition, our crews are provided with the time they need to recover if they're sick or to test. And so we're doing everything we can to ensure that our crews are supported as essential workers, as public-facing workers, to remain healthy, even as folks still test positive for COVID.
Well, thank you. And I will say, full disclosure, I am a ferry rider for more than 20 years. And I will say, even during the pandemic, you guys have done a great job of keeping the boats clean, sanitized. Back when we had the social distancing of 6 feet, it was great the way you guys handled everything. So, thank you for that.
Thank you.
So following up on that, if you wouldn't mind reiterating or maybe highlighting, are there any particular health or safety measures introduced during the pandemic that will become a permanent part of the system?
One big one that seems small, but it's actually big, is the availability of hand sanitizer on the ferries. So we've had restrooms forever where folks can go in and wash their hands, before they grab a snack or something like that. But now we have the hand sanitizers dispensers all over the boats, on every boat, and consistently filled. Our crews are checking to make sure those are filled. And so you're seeing it become a habit with people. They step onto the boat, they hit the hand sanitizer, they step off the boat, they hit the hand sanitizer. So that's been a good addition that we're going to keep on board. In addition, the upgraded cleaning, that's going to remain the case. It's just a good practice on public transit to make sure things are clean whenever you have some downtime. So we're going to continue to do that as well. As I said, masks are currently recommended but not required, and our capacity limits have been lifted. We did strongly look at our ventilation system to ensure that we were doing the maximum filtration possible, and so we're going to continue to do that and emphasize that as well.
Okay. And has WIDA hired additional crew members for purposes of sanitation, or have they increased training for current crew members?
So we didn't add any additional crews, but we did keep full staffing throughout the pandemic. So even when we were running much less service during the real heavy part of the pandemic, when demand was quite low, we were employing all of those crews still. And so the way we really functioned was to bring the crews that were off of live service to do some deep cleaning of vessels that were not being used during that week. So we were able to balance that during the periods where we had less service. Now we are running full service, and all of our crews are out in the field every day. So we're relying on them to keep the vessels clean during service, and then after they finish their last trip of the day.
Thank you.
So Thomas, I know you just mentioned briefly about filters on the ferry systems. Does San Francisco Bay Ferry use the standard MERV 13 filters on the ferries? I know that was recommended by the EPA.
Yes, we do follow the EPA recommendations. We make sure to consult their lists whenever we're looking at products, whether it's the disinfectants that we use to make sure that those cover COVID in the filtration systems. We've also started the practice upstairs on the ferry of propping open a door if it's a crowded ferry, just to make sure we have that extra airflow coming through. It's a little tougher on the lower deck, just based on you don't want people to get wet sitting next to the doors or a hat pull off or papers. So, but having the outdoor seating and then doing the little things we can to improve that already excellent ventilation. I think it's notable, and Bart has done a great job of highlighting this, that in terms of super spreader events or big case numbers, you really haven't seen it traced back to public transit anywhere, because there is airflow coming through all of our vehicles. And so we really are heartened by that and doing everything we can to make sure that remains the case going forward.
Great. So thank you for the update on the sanitation practices at WIDA today.
Thank you.
So that wraps it up for our conversation with WIDA. Thank you once again, Thomas Halls, WIDA's Public Information and Marketing Manager, for taking the time to answer our questions. And thank you, Jeff, for joining me today as well.
Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.